He thought it would be the safest place in America for a secret meeting, until one small mistake exposed the entire American Mafia overnight. If you're into stories about power, control, and the shadows of history, make sure to subscribe, because this one turns the underworld upside down. Apalachin, New York. November 14th, 1957. 12:40 p.m. 15 cars are parked outside a quiet countryside home. The driveway is filled with Cadillacs, Lincolns, and Buicks, all spotless, all new, all with out-of-state license plates. Men in tailored suits walk in and out of the house carrying briefcases. Some shake hands at the entrance, some stand near the garage smoking. No one raises their voice. Everything is quiet. The home belongs to Joseph Barbara, a soft-spoken beverage distributor with long ties to underworld figures. He has hosted gatherings before. Nothing like this one. Inside the house, more than a dozen high-ranking figures sit at long tables arranged across 2 rooms. They talk in low voices. Some review handwritten notes. Others wait for arrival orders. More cars are expected. Much larger names. State Trooper Edgar Croswell drives past the property on his routine patrol. It's a road he checks every day. He notices multiple cars he's never seen before. Expensive models. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Florida. Not typical for a small rural town. He slows the car, looks through the trees. Men in suits move across the property in clusters. Croswell knows the owner, Barbara. He also knows Barbara's medical record. Doctors told him to avoid stress, large gatherings, heavy meals. Yet the driveway is filled with cars costing more than the house itself. Croswell continues down the road. He pulls over at a safe distance, radios a nearby station, asks for license plate checks. He waits. Inside the property, more arrivals continue. Some are greeted at the door. Some head straight for the basement. Cigars are lit, jackets removed. A meeting organizer moves through the rooms, collecting names and organizing seating. The men include well-known bosses: Vito Genovese from New York, Joe Bonanno from Brooklyn, Stefano Magaddino from Buffalo, Russell Buffalino from Pennsylvania, delegates from Chicago, Los Angeles, Cleveland, Kansas City, Tampa. More than 90 major figures. Almost every crime family in the United States is represented. The purpose: settle disputes, reorganize territories, and formalize leadership after years of internal power struggles. Outside, Croswell receives a callback. Several plates belong to known associates of organized crime. One plate belongs to a man arrested in another state for narcotics. Another belongs to a known lieutenant in an East Coast family. A third is connected to a racketeering investigation. Croswell contacts backup. He parks his cruiser further down the road and steps into the woods. Tall grass and thick trees make it difficult to see the property clearly, but smoke from the backyard grill is visible. The smell of cooked meat spreads across the field. Croswell quietly marks each parked car in a notebook. The list grows. Inside the home, Joseph Barbara's wife prepares food for the gathering large trays of meat, bread, coffee. She moves quickly between the kitchen and the dining room. Men she's never met pass her with nods. Some speak Italian, some English. Voices are cautious. No one laughs loudly. Barbara receives a phone call inside the house. A local contact. The trooper has been outside too long. Someone saw him. Barbara hangs up and calls for attention. A few men stand immediately. Others look confused. Barbara moves through the group, telling them to remain calm, but his tone is urgent. Anyone who's been in this life long enough recognizes the look. Something has gone wrong. Outside, Croswell is now joined by Sergeant Vincent Vasisco. They approach the property from the road. Another marked officer waits near the intersection to block potential exits. They do not walk directly onto the property. They wait. Inside, discussions break down quickly. Men rise from tables. Doors open. Some head toward the backyard. Others move toward the garage. A few ask direct questions. They need to know if law enforcement is already at the perimeter. Barbara's nephew confirms there are troopers. In seconds, everything on the property changes. Men begin fleeing through the rear yard. Some run toward the woods, some climb fences, some abandon cars without grabbing their coats. One man tries to escape through a patch of thorn bushes. Another slips on wet grass. Several scatter in different directions. There is no coordination. Croswell sees movement behind the house. The officers move in. They pull into the driveway. Engines loud, sirens off, doors slam. Officers spread out quickly. Several mafiosi freeze. Others keep running. A few attempt to hide behind trees or lay flat in the woods. A Cadillac door is still open. The engine is warm. A briefcase sits in the passenger seat. In the chaos, Vito Genovese escapes through the forest behind the property. So do a handful of other high-ranking figures, but most are not prepared for rough terrain. Expensive shoes sink into mud. Suit pants tear on branches. A few drop wallets or documents. Croswell and Vasisco hold several men at the scene. They ask for identification. Many refuse to speak. Some claim they're at a barbecue. Others say they don't know the host. A few give false names. Officers separate them and record each name individually. By 1:15 p.m., dozens of officers from surrounding areas arrive. Roadblocks are set up across all exits. Vehicles are searched. More men are detained. One man tries to leave on foot, claiming he's a salesman. His suit is covered in leaves. Another claims he arrived by mistake. When questioned about his connection to known figures, he has no answer. Inside the house, the meeting room is empty. Chairs pushed back, papers missing. Drinks half finished. A map sits on a table with several marks made in pencil. Nothing else is left behind. Officers search the property. They find expensive clothing hidden behind trees, a briefcase buried in leaves, a hat crushed under a fence, several watches and personal items dropped during the escape. Over the next hour, more fugitives are located in the woods. One hides inside a doghouse. Another wades into a creek, trying to avoid being spotted from the road. Officers pull him out soaked and shivering. By mid-afternoon, more than 60 men are detained. Cars are impounded. The driveway is completely blocked by police vehicles, reporters, and curious neighbors. For the first time in U.S. history, local law enforcement has captured a national gathering of nearly every major organized crime figure in the country. Officers collect identification cards, financial records, business cards, and handwritten notes found in cars. Some men carry thousands in cash, others carry out-of-state bank receipts. Everything is catalogued. Inside the station, the names shock investigators. Dons, underbosses, consiglieres delegates, men believed to never travel publicly together. Yet here they were, all in one place. Rumors spread fast. Newspapers begin calling the station. Reporters arrive outside the property, taking photos of cars being towed. Headlines begin forming before officers finish gathering statements. The Apalachin meeting is no longer a secret. The station lobby is crowded. Folding chairs are filled with men in dark suits. Some sit with arms crossed. Others stare at the floor. None speak unless spoken to. Officers move between them collecting identification. Each wallet is tagged and stored. Every name is written manually. The list grows with each detained arrival brought in from the property. A man gives the name John Santos. Officers recognize the face. It belongs to Carmine Lombardozzi, a known Brooklyn figure. Another calls himself Joseph Diaz. Fingerprints identify him as Angelo Ciandra, connected to Pennsylvania operations. The false identities are recorded as evidence. State Trooper Croswell stands near a desk reviewing a clipboard. Plate numbers, physical descriptions, and personal items found at the scene are organized into columns. Each line connects a man to a vehicle, and each vehicle connects to an address tied to an investigation in another state. The pattern is clear. No one in that house was there for a family barbecue. In another room, Sergeant Vasisco supervises questioning. Men are split into groups, matched by carpool. Officers ask basic questions. Why are you in Apalachin? Who invited you? What is your connection to the host? Many answer with single sentences, some refuse to answer at all. One man claims he came to pay a social visit. Another says he was lost. A third states he stopped by to pick up soda syrup for his restaurant. Officers write each answer word for word. The contradictions are immediate. None of them match. The property itself remains active. Officers comb through the house with permission from the homeowner's wife. They photograph the dining tables, the kitchen setup, the grill in the backyard, the leftover trays of food. The layout suggests a planned event for a large number of guests, not a spontaneous gathering, not a small social visit. Everything was arranged in advance. At the far end of the basement, they find chairs placed in rows, forming a makeshift conference area. A few papers lie under a table, too smudged to read clearly. One officer pockets a matchbook with the name of a Brooklyn social club printed on it. Items are sealed and bagged. Outside, the impound lot fills quickly. Cars are lined in rows for photography. Cadillacs, Buicks, Oldsmobiles. All late model. All expensive. Some have registration documents from distant states. One has insurance papers in the glove compartment linking it to a man detained earlier. Another has a notebook tucked behind the sun visor with several first names and phone numbers written inside. Officers log each detail. Back at the station, the situation becomes more complicated. A local justice of the peace arrives. He begins processing disorderly conduct charges, the only charge applicable at the moment. There are no federal laws against attending a meeting, even one filled with known criminals. Officers know the charges are minor. The goal isn't imprisonment, it's documentation. By mid-afternoon, more detainees are brought in. Some are visibly exhausted from running through the woods, clothing is torn. Shoes muddy. A suit jacket is shredded at the sleeve. One man winces with each step. Officers note injuries in the reports, medical attention is offered. Some accept, most refuse. Photographers gather outside the station. Reporters push forward, attempting to identify who has been captured. Troopers form a barrier and begin escorting detainees through side entrances. Even so, several faces are caught on camera. The next morning's newspapers will publish the images nationwide. Meanwhile, inside the house, Joseph Barbara has collapsed. He suffers chest pain and is transported to a hospital. Officers follow the ambulance to maintain contact. Barbara states he was unaware of who attended the gathering. He claims he only hosted a luncheon and knew nothing about the identities of his guests. His statement is documented. Then he is sedated for medical treatment. At the station, questioning continues. Officers ask each man the same set of structured questions. They take notes without commentary. Some detainees answer calmly, others remain silent. When asked for occupations, several list vague terms: salesman, importer, consultant, contracting. None offer company names. One detainee, Rosario Russell Bufalino, remains composed. He gives his name, address, and occupation, owner of a garment pressing business. Officers know his background from prior investigations. They record his statement without delay. Another detainee from Los Angeles tries to minimize his presence by claiming he was visiting a friend in the area. Officers ask for the friend's name. He cannot provide one. Notes are taken. Outside, radio dispatchers contact agencies across the country. Requests for background information go out to New York City, Buffalo, Chicago, Cleveland, Tampa, Philadelphia, Detroit, and Los Angeles. Replies come back through teletype. Many of the men have previous arrests, known associates, or active surveillance in their home cities. Inside the station, one officer notices something consistent among many detainees. The same social clubs, restaurants, or addresses appear repeatedly across their documents. The connections are mapped out on a board. Lines are drawn between names, cities, and known meeting places. A network becomes visible. As night approaches, some detainees are released on small fines. Disorderly conduct carries little penalty. But before release, each man must sign a statement confirming his identity. They hesitate, but they sign. Officers make photocopies of the documents. Every signature is stored. Reporters at the station press the troopers for explanations. Troopers provide minimal statements. A suspicious gathering was interrupted. Individuals were detained. Investigations are ongoing. No additional details are offered. Reporters rely on observation, photographing each man escorted from the building. Those images will appear on front pages in the morning under large headlines. Back at the property, state investigators take final photographs as the evening light fades. The grill is still warm. Plates rest on the porch where they were left mid-meal. A bottle of wine sits open on the table. A half-cut loaf of bread remains on a tray. Everything suggests a gathering interrupted suddenly. Inside the house, coats, hats, and personal items left behind are catalogued. Some are tagged with monograms. Officers gather these items as evidence. The basement chairs are counted and photographed. Anything that can indicate the scale of the meeting is recorded. At the hospital, doctors confirm Barbara's condition is stable. Officers wait outside his room. They do not press further questions that night. Their priority remains the men in custody. Throughout the evening, more information comes from outside agencies. Some detainees are identified as close associates of top-level bosses. Others have connections to narcotics cases or interstate gambling investigations. Their presence at the same location strengthens broader inquiries already underway in several states. Before midnight, nearly all detainees are processed. Some leave quietly. Others walk past reporters without comment. Officers escort them into cars driven by relatives or associates. No one returns to the Barbara residence. Inside the station, Croswell gathers the day's notes. The number of attendees far exceeds expectations. More than 60 confirmed detentions. Dozens more escaped. The list includes individuals believed to rarely travel, let alone gather together. Their presence in one location offers clear evidence of a national organizational structure. By the time the station lights dim and paperwork begins to pile on desks, one fact is unavoidable. The meeting is no longer a local issue. It is a national incident. By early morning, newspapers across the country print the story. Headlines mention a gangland convention, a secret summit, a national crime council. Photographs show men in coats shielding their faces. Cars with distant license plates lined in rows. State troopers directing traffic around the Barbara property. The story spreads faster than investigators can prepare statements. At the FBI's New York field office, agents review the front pages. Several of the men pictured have active files. Others are linked to federal investigations involving narcotics, labor racketeering, and interstate gambling. Field agents begin pulling documents to match names with activities. The scale of the gathering forces immediate internal discussions. By mid-morning, state officials begin correcting public assumptions. They confirm dozens of men were detained. They confirm disorderly conduct charges. They confirm the presence of high-ranking underworld figures. Reporters ask if this proves the existence of a coordinated national structure. Officials avoid direct answers. They state only that the investigation is ongoing. Inside the station, Trooper Croswell continues compiling reports. He cross-references the names collected with prior intelligence. Notes from previous surveillance operations link several attendees to meetings in New York City, Buffalo, and Chicago. These connections are documented carefully. Each line of evidence adds weight to the claim that the meeting involved more than a social visit. Federal agencies request copies of the records, fingerprints, and plate numbers. Troopers prepare duplicates. Officers package the documents for distribution. The evidence will be shared with local police departments in multiple states. At the Barbara residence, the property remains under observation. Officers return to take additional photographs. The backyard shows multiple sets of footprints leading into the woods. A broken fence panel lies near the tree line. A shoe print matches the size and sole pattern of one of the detained men. These details are documented and photographed. In the basement, an officer locates a chair knocked onto its side. Another chair has a torn fabric seat. The arrangement of the rows is consistent with a planned meeting of significant size. The room is measured. The layout is sketched. These images will later appear in investigative files and court documents. At the hospital, Joseph Barbara rests under supervision. Officers attempt another interview, limited by his medical condition. He repeats that he planned a luncheon. He denies knowledge of the out-of-state attendees. He denies awareness of any business conducted at his home. Doctors end the interview to avoid further strain. Back in town, more reporters arrive. They gather near the entrance to the station, waiting for updates. Troopers maintain distance and keep the building secure. Some reporters attempt to interview released attendees. Most refuse. A few mutter short phrases that are immediately printed as headlines. The atmosphere around the station remains tense. At state headquarters, senior officials review the case. The presence of so many figures from different regions raises concerns about jurisdiction. Some argue the investigation belongs to local authorities. Others insist it represents a national issue. The lack of federal laws directly targeting organized crime limits immediate action. The meeting exposes a structural gap in enforcement. Later that day, additional detainees finish processing. Those who posted fines return to their home states. Officers track their departures, documenting vehicle descriptions and exit routes. When possible, they notify the authorities in the cities where the men are returning. The coordination is slow but consistent. As names from the event circulate, law enforcement agencies in multiple states report renewed interest in ongoing cases. A narcotics investigation in New York gains new relevance. A labor racketeering case in New Jersey expands. A gambling inquiry in Ohio reopens. The Apalachin meeting becomes a connecting point across investigations previously viewed as unrelated. At the FBI, internal memos circulate questioning how such a large gathering took place without prior warning. The meeting challenges previous assessments about the structure of organized crime. For years, official statements downplayed the idea of a national crime syndicate. Now, those statements are quietly re-evaluated. By the evening of November 15, reports are compiled into formal summaries. These include lists of confirmed attendees, unconfirmed escapees, vehicles present, false names used, and statements recorded. Officers organize everything into large binders. Each binder is stamped and archived. A few days later, subpoenas are issued to several attendees requiring court appearances. The questions focus on their purpose at the residence. Most invoke constitutional protections against self-incrimination. The transcripts reflect repeated refusals to answer. These refusals become part of the public record. Federal authorities begin drafting internal assessments. These documents conclude that the meeting was designed to discuss national-level issues, including leadership disputes and conflict resolution within major crime families. While the specific agenda cannot be proven through seized materials, the presence of key figures supports this conclusion. In the weeks that follow, investigative pressure increases on multiple organizations. Surveillance expands around social clubs, restaurants, and meeting locations associated with crime families. Informants provide details linking attendees to past disputes. Agencies across the country compile new lists of connections based on the Apalachin detentions. Local residents near the Barbara property discuss the event for months. Some recall seeing men in suits walking through the woods. Others remember troopers blocking the roads, searching vehicles. For a rural community accustomed to quiet routines, the sudden appearance of dozens of out-of-state cars left a lasting impression. The state police finalize their official report. It states that a large number of individuals, known to be associated with criminal organizations, gathered at the residence. It outlines the suspicious circumstances, failed escape attempts, and evidence of a planned conference. The report concludes, the gathering was not social in nature. Federal reviews reach similar conclusions. Internal analyses describe the meeting as an unprecedented assembly of organized crime leaders from across the United States. The documents emphasize that the event marks the first public exposure of a national criminal network. The press continues to publish details. Articles trace the backgrounds of attendees, mapping their influence and territories. Public awareness grows. Citizens write letters demanding federal action. Editorial pages argue the government underestimated the reach of organized crime. Over time, the Apalachin incident leads to policy changes. Federal agencies increase funding for organized crime investigations. Intelligence sharing between states improves. Prosecutors begin building long-term cases aimed at challenging the leadership structures identified through the meeting. One central consequence stands out. Law enforcement can no longer deny the existence of an interconnected national mafia. The photographs of detained men, the vehicles from distant states, and the statements collected at the station form undeniable evidence. The incident becomes a turning point. Years later, several attendees face charges unrelated to the meeting, but influenced by the investigations it triggered. Their presence in Apalachin becomes an official part of their recorded histories. Courts reference the event in discussions of criminal patterns and associations. For the families involved, the event changes travel habits, meeting structures, and internal communication. Security measures increase. Some leaders no longer attend large gatherings. Others insist on smaller, more discreet locations. The level of caution rises across the country. The Barbara property returns to quiet. The driveway no longer fills with expensive cars. The house sits unchanged, but its history becomes part of the public record. The meeting room remains empty. The trees behind the home still show faint depressions where men once ran through the brush. The story becomes a landmark in the history of organized crime enforcement. It marks the moment when the hidden structure of the American Mafia surfaced in full daylight, captured by patrol officers on a quiet rural road. And although most attendees walked free that day, the consequences followed them for decades. Within hours, the last trooper leaves the property. The yard is empty again. The grass is flattened where shoes once pressed into the ground. The house stands still. Nothing visible remains of the gathering, but the country will never see organized crime the same way again.